Hey, what's going on YouTube? Belton here. Today I'm going to explain to you guys one of the coolest items in the game, one of the most mysterious items in the game, and one of the strongest items in the game, and that is the Heroic Tragedy Timeless Jewel. I'm going to explain how it works. I'm going to show you guys some different iterations to put together and give you a basic concept for being able to apply these to your builds yourself and potentially get one of the craziest items available in the game. And this is sort of one of those unbreached territories where these have not been able to be data mined, so there's not a specific tracker that can do this. So the potential here in terms of a ceiling is incredibly high. But the entry cost on them, because they are so mysterious, is very, very low. And so really there is almost no limit to what you can get with these. And so this is a pretty exciting item. Eventually, I'm sure the API information will come out and people will be able to data mine this into a specific thing like they did in PoE 1. For those of you who did play PoE 1, these are very similar to the Timeless Jewels. The Lethal Pride and items like that. This is like a PoE 2 version, but they are different. And so I'm going to explain to you how these work today. In this video, we put together a bunch of charts. I spent dozens of hours and thousands of divines going through to test various things here, to collect some data and put together a nice little spreadsheet for you guys. So before we jump into this, if you do appreciate content like this, if you could drop a like, share this, sub to the channel if you're new, I would really appreciate that. Got recently demonetized off of Twitch for various reasons that pertain to some errors, I think, on Twitch's side, but I still want to focus on the quality of content rather than just pumping out a bunch of senseless drivel. So any help you guys can give in that would be much appreciated. With that being said, we'll jump into it. So the Heroic Tragedy Jewel has two basic elements to it. There is the leader and the seed number. So the three types of jewels that you can get here, we'll pop up a little chart here, a bunch of little spreadsheets that I put together. You can see that there are three different types. You've got the Varana, the Medved, and the Olroth. And so we'll leave up just this one right here for now. And, oops, sorry, video capture. When you look at the jewels itself here in the game, you'll see that you have, if you hold Alt, it'll tell you that you have a historic item. And then you have remembrancing. Remembrancing is a weird way to phrase it, but then you have these seed number right here, so 100 to 8,000. And then you'll see by the line of, and when I say leader, it's referring to the line of, Olroth, Varana, or Medved. So you have those three variants here. Now, the two parts of it, being the leader and the seed number, impact two separate things. The leader will impact the keystone conversion. So normally, when you have your basic attributes, as it says to my left here, for every one strength that you have, it will give you 2 life. For every 1 dexterity, it'll give you 5 accuracy, and for every 1 intelligence, it'll give you 2 mana. By placing in the Heroic Tragedy Jewel into a jewel socket that has a keystone by it, it will change what your base attribute does for one of those attributes based on who the leader is. So in the case of a Varana jewel, it will make it so that your instead of 1 strength giving you 2 life, it will change it so that 2 strength will now give you 1% ES. For Medved, it will change it from 1 dexterity giving you 5 accuracy to 2 dexterity giving you 1% armor. And Olroth will make it change from 1 intelligence giving 2 mana to 2 intelligence giving 1 evasion. So right here, you can see this one is Medved. And if we hover over the keystone right here, you'll see that it does, you gain no inherent bonus from dexterity, but 1% armor per 2 dexterity. And similarly, if we put in Varana here, you'll see that it is 1% ES from 2 strength. And lastly, with Olroth, you have 1% evasion per 2 intelligence. So that is the leadership part of it. Now, those are separate from the seed. So the leader, the Olroth, Varana, or Medved, only converts the keystone. The second element of these jewels is the seed number. Now, the seed number when you hold Alt is the one here where it says 100 to 8,000. And that will impact the notables that will get converted. So another element of these, if you see it when I put it in right here, we have these traditional notable passives, heart stopping, heart breaking, struck through, etc. But when I place this jewel in here, you'll see that these get converted to new notables. Now, there are 37 possible notables that can be converted into here with the heroic tragedy. Because there's 37 of them, I decided to not put that into a little fancy thing, but you can find it on the PoE DB or on the wiki. I will link this below in the description as well. But you'll see that the various notables here are all listed. Now, some of these can be incredibly strong. Some of them have, all of them have 2 elements to it. So, you know, there's ones where it's like 40% projectile damage with 1 rage on melee hit, 40% lightning damage, 15 strength, 10% attack speed, 15 stun threshold, etc. So all of them will have 2 elements. And despite the fact that you'll see when you look on here that they do have a color associated with them. So the strength conversion ones, which are the Verana, right, where strength get converted to ES, you'll notice that when you look here, it does have certain notables that are associated with that same color code, which associates with the base attribute. However, they are not locked to that. So if you do have a keystone that gives Verana, you are not locked to only getting the strength ones. You can still get all of them there. And that is different than PoE 1 with the timeless jewels. PoE 1, they are locked to the base type they give. In PoE 2, they are completely separate things. So if you have a Verana, you can still get the dexterity related notables or the intelligence related notables. Whether or not the keystone itself has an influence over the propensity for them to exist, I have not been able to specifically tell yet. Although from my base testing, it appears that it is only the seed number. And so what does that mean? It means that if I had a timeless jewel here that you can see the seed number on this one is 1,257. And it is Olroth. If I had 1,257 and it were Verana, it should theoretically give the exact same notable conversions. And so if you place it in here, you'll see that rather than having, we'll just compare it on these 3, heart stopping, heart breaking, and struck through, it now gives 30% mana regen with ailment threshold, 10% attack speed with sun threshold, and druidic training, which is 40% spell damage and 10% flask and charm charges gained. And so because there is a massive variance in the amount of seed numbers, there's basically limitless potential for how you can distribute those separate notables. Now, as a separate part to that, and we're going to jump into one of my charts here, I did actually put together a full list. And to explain this best, I'm going to refer to the different jewel sockets as hours on a clock. If you are to look at the game itself here on your passive tree, there are 12 total jewel sockets. There's one here, 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 etc. And those actually, if you were to look at it like a clock, they relate directly towards that. So of the 12 jewel sockets that are available, some of them, 6 of them to be exact, have a keystone that is within range of that jewel socket, and 6 of them do not have a keystone nearby. Now, regardless if it has a keystone or not, the seed number will still convert the notables. However, having it near a keystone is much better for 2 separate reasons. And that is that if you have it by a keystone, so to compare here, if we take this Olroth one, right? A keystone are these ones like acrobatics or resonance or CI, right? By having it nearby a keystone, first of all, you get the keystone element where you can convert to a different to a different base defenses type rather than the standard effect given by the attribute. But on top of that, it does allow you to combine it then further with the From Nothing jewel. Now, the From Nothing jewel allows you to allocate passives in radius of a certain keystone without being connected to that part of the tree. So right here, I have Dances with Death. And you can see here, Dance with Death, and then it gives me within this radius here, I have the capacity to allocate any one of these notables. So by having a Heroic Tragedy that is one of the 6 jewel sockets of the 12 that is within the radius of a keystone, not only do you get the capacity to change the effect of your base attribute, but you also are going to be able to spend less points to get to certain notables. And so what I did here, just to help you guys out, was make an entire sort of cheat sheet to go over which jewel sockets have the most effective notables and keystone relationship in order to maximize the potential for like what the ceiling is with what you can get from this jewel. And so if you look up on the chart I made there, the socket, when it says that on the left side of the little chart there, 12 is like 12 o'clock on the clock, 1, etc. Now, in the little graphic there, the numbers that have a green circle around them, those are the ones that have a keystone by them. So I highly suggest those being the ones that you focus on. And so within those keystone ones there, number 1 is by Chaos Inoculation. Number 2 is by Resonance. Number 3 is by Acrobatics. Number 8 is by Resolute Technique. Number 9 is by Blood Magic, and number 11 is by Mind Over Matter. Then the next column that I have there is the amount of notable passives that are within range of the Heroic Tragedy jewel itself. So, for example, if I were to, because right here we have it on Acrobatics, right? So you can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So there are 11 total notables that are within range of the Heroic Tragedy jewel that are getting converted. Now, you do also want to be strategic with this somewhat, because while I'm giving you the base numbers here, obviously, in the case for myself, I don't actually want to use a Heroic Tragedy here because I want the base element or the base impact of these notables themselves. So you're going to have to find a balance when you use these of hopefully, in most cases, you'll want to get it nearby a keystone, but you also want to make sure that the notables or the keystone that it's converting is not something that you need for your build otherwise, because the base effect of those notables will no longer take place. Now, even though it does change the name of the notable, you can still use a from nothing to get within range of that itself. So, sorry, I probably should have prepared this ahead of time. Let me find one here. Chaos Inoculation. All right, so like we can do it with CI here. If I were to put this in right here, sorry, let me refund my passives. Oops. Okay, so now I can take out that from nothing, and I can put in the one for Chaos Inoculation. All right, so you can see now with CI up here, right? We now have the capacity to choose from any one of these individual notables without having to path towards the tree, right? So you don't have to take the small passives. Now, if I were to put a Heroic Tragedy into the jewel socket that's right beside there, right? You'll see that there's an overlap. So this is kind of how you can distinguish which ones are quote-unquote the best, right? Because in this case here, I can take 1, 2, 3, and 4 with only spending 4 individual passive points. The Heroic Tragedy does nothing to the small passives themselves. However, it does actually prevent a secondary effect from happening. So if you're playing like Titan, for example, where you get 50% increased effect of small passives, it can't be impacted by 2 things at once. Even though the Heroic Tragedy will not change the small passive points, if you do have a Heroic Tragedy overlapping it like this, you will not get the 50% increased effect. So meta skills gain 8% increased energy. If you're playing a Titan, that would be 12% normally. But if it is being impacted by the Heroic Tragedy, all the small passives will not be able to gain that base impact there. So do be conscientious of that. That's more of a niche case example, but that is one impact that they do have on them. But otherwise, though, it's purely the notables that you're focusing on. So in this case here, the keystone or the leadership that is going on. Oh, shoot. Sorry, let me turn off the browser thing there. All right, there. So, sorry, the follower notification won't show up anymore. Sorry for people on YouTube. Yeah, so the keystone here you can see is changing because it is a Olroth. It is going to change the evasion, the intelligence from providing mana to providing evasion rating. And so CI is being converted to that. And then the from nothing that we have for CI is allowing us to access 4 separate notable passives here. And then the heroic tragedy is converting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 separate notables. And so I'm going to pull back open my charts again here, just so you had the full context for it. And so the bottom to my left directly here, you can see that is what the base keystones are done by the leadership. And then on the charts to the in the upper left side here, you'll see the socket number along with the keystone that it can impact and the total amount of notables that are impacted by the heroic tragedy jewel. And then where it says from nothing, that column is referring to how many notables are within range of a from nothing itself, because that means that you can just spend the 1 point to get them, right? And so when determining which the best ones are, and this is notwithstanding, obviously, in some situations, if you need the actual notables or the keystone itself, you might take one that is lower on the list. But purely, all else being equal, just from the effectiveness of the jewel itself, I decided to go through and check all of them and make a list for you guys here. And so you can see that with respect to the notable rankings, the most amount of notables that you can get from any individual jewel socket placement is the one that is down here by Resolute Technique. So if you take this jewel socket right here and you were to put the heroic tragedy in there, you would have 18 notables within range. All right, so that is the absolute best one that you can get. And furthermore, with the from nothing in the location of by taking Resolute Technique with the from nothing there, you also have 5 notables that are able to be taken with 1 individual point. So in every way, that is the most optimal location for it. Again, notwithstanding your ability to travel that far or potentially convert those notables. So right above me on the thing here, I made a list or a ranking just to say which one of the jewel locations are the most effective. And so the prioritization there was keystones are first. So if it does not have a keystone associated with it, it automatically is lower than one that does. And then it goes by the rank of the total amount of notables that are available with it, and then the amount of notables that are within range of a from nothing. Furthermore, another way that you can make these even stronger is by combining them again with, you have the anointment capacity on an amulet, right, to put a notable there. There's also that unique amulet that allows you to anoint 3 of them. And then lastly, by a megalomaniac. Megalomaniac can have upwards of 3 separate notables. And so in the case of this one here, where it's, singular purpose and irreparable, these are actually not notables that I would want to get. However, you can see here, singular purpose and irreparable are both within range of the heroic tragedy right here, right? And so there might be a scenario where if I had the heroic tragedy located right here, I would be able to take this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one without with a from nothing, right? So there's 5 that are within range out of the 18. And then if you theoretically had a very, very well-rolled heroic tragedy, you could also then get a megalomaniac in theory that had 3 of the notables that are within range of the heroic tragedy itself, but not within range of the from nothing. And so you could get those automatically assigned. You could anoint another one, so that would be 9 total. And then on top of that, you could technically get the, if you had the double anointment as well, the triple anointment amulet, you could get the 3 plus the 3 on the megalomaniac, plus the 5 there. So you could actually get 11 of them without having to spend a single travel point, just taking the notables themselves. And so as you could probably imagine, I don't think that there's a practical sense where you would ever probably do that. Megalomaniacs and anointing passives that are, specifically best for your build is probably going to be better in most cases. But if you get an exceptionally good heroic tragedy, that is a potential option. Past that, you probably want to prioritize one that have the fewest amount of travel points. For example, looking here at Resolute Technique, if I am pathing down to this jewel here, right? It's going to convert the notable beef, and beef only takes 2 passive points, right? So it's 1 point for the strength and then 1 point to get there. So that's going to be one where I'm not going to have a high priority on getting that on, say, a megalomaniac, because it's only going to cost me 2 points. Whereas if I wanted to get, let's say there was a very good converted one on lasting trauma, in order to get that, I would have to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that's a 5. Being able to anoint or have a megalomaniac notable with that one on there, that is obviously really good as well. Another thing that's worth mentioning, I suppose, with respect to the notables, is there is actually that new essence that gives a notable on the chest. So you can see here we've got Lay Siege, and then I do have a few other ones over here: Thrill of the Battle, Reaving, Wildstorm, Split the Earth, etc. I don't think there's probably too many use cases where you would want to get a chest notable on that as well, but it's another option, at least anyways. Perhaps if you're on a lower budget, you could find somebody who has an otherwise pretty shitty notable that gives you something really unique with one of those. And so that's kind of a way to sort of min-max those again. But just going through the chart again here. With the ranking system, as I said, the Resolute technique on both measures, or all measures, is the best one. It gives you 18 notables within range, 5 of which are available to be taken with individual points from nothing. And it also obviously has the keystone. The second best jewel is a tie for Chaos Inoculation and Resonance. That would be jewel number 1 and 2. Both of those ones have 12 notables within range, and 4 of which can be assigned with from nothing. The fourth best jewel is Acrobatics, which has 11 notables, and 4 of which are in range from nothing. The fifth best one is Mind Over Matter, which has 11 notables, and 3 are in range of a from nothing. The sixth best is Blood Magic, which has 9 total notables, 4 of which are available with a from nothing. And then the rest of the jewel slots do not have a keystone that is located near them, so you do not have the option of using a from nothing. Furthermore, you do not have the option to convert the base attribute effect of your stats. However, with respect to which ones are the best in that situation, number 4, so the 4 o'clock one, is the best. That's the one down by Catalysis there in like the southeast. That has 16 total notables within range. After that, you've got the 12 o'clock one, so directly north. That has the 12 notables within range. And then you've got a tie for the 9th best one between 6 and 10, both of which have 11 notables in range. And lastly, in last place, you have jewel number 5 and 7, both of which obviously do not have a keystone. They have no from nothing, and they only have 8 notables within range. So hopefully that gives you an idea of where you could check these out, because that is sort of the core function of each one of those jewels. Now, it is worth mentioning, as I said, to keep some of these numbers in mind. Again, I have prepared a document that I'll share below. All of these photos that I've been putting on the screen there. I just put into a spreadsheet here, and I will share that spreadsheet in the description below the video, in case you want a little cheat sheet to access. It's nothing here more so than really just base data collection. Another thing I did do and have started to do myself, because you're not able to data mine this information the way that you are in PoE 1 with Timeless Jewels, finding out the seed distribution, the seed number amongst each jewel socket, is obviously really like the crux of where you're going to find the value. Now, as I pointed out, the seed number can go from 100 to 8,000. That means that there are 7,901 possible rolls, right? And there are 12 jewel sockets. And so that means it is 7,901 times 12. So there are 94,812 options. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of different possible combinations that you can get there. Now, maybe we'll go through quickly. I'll just read you what the impact is of some of these different notables. I did spend probably a week and a half collecting different notables, entering manual data, doing this, and I spent probably 2,000 divines just physically divining the jewels, and then going through and meticulously placing them in each thing, and then searching stuff down and writing down the distribution. But maybe at a baseline, we'll go through what each one of these notables does. So you've got 40% fire damage and 15 intelligence. For the ones that do increased damage, they're pretty much all 40%. Typically, the more broadly applicable the damage type is, the better it is. For example, 40% elemental damage is better than 40% fire damage because 40% fire damage falls within the umbrella of 40% elemental damage. And then you have things like projectile damage or melee damage, where it can be a projectile and it can be elemental and it can be fire. So you have some overlap with those ones as well. And so when you're going through and trying to find these jewels yourself, it's important that what you should do first of all is maybe just pull up a little like a notepad document. That's what I like to use because I'm an OG. And like, let's say in my case, I'll just do what my real examples are. You can see here, this is what I've actually been using. I have a regex. So this is a search term here, and that the regex there is giving rest, which is the lightning damage one. So if I go here, lightning damage, right? Rest control. So that gives 40% increased lightning damage and 15 to strength, right? And then I also have the attack speed one, which is Mercenary's Lot, which is 10% attack speed. I've got Verana's Fury in my search, which is 40% prod damage with 1 rage on hit. I've got Aim for the Jugular, which is 30% accuracy and magnitude of bleeding. Actually, sorry, maybe before I go through what I'm doing, we'll just read all of the notable impacts. But in any case, as you're going through this yourself, what you do want to make note of is the actual name of the passive, the notable passive itself. Because when you go onto your passive tree within the game, if you place the heroic jewel in, so for example, in my case here, these are the ones I was looking for, right? So I'll copy that, and then we'll open up the skill tree, press Control F, then Control V. And when I place, oh, sorry, I gotta place the, where'd it go? There it is. All right, so now Control F, Control V, and you can see we get these 3 highlighted, right? So War Tactics, so we've got 40% increased fizz damage, War Tactics, 40% increased fizz. Oh, 3 of them. War Tactics, 40% increased fizz. So you can see by going through and making note of what the names are here, you can have a faster search ready for you because, again, there's no way to automate this, so you're going to have to place them manually, right? But just being able to press Control F, Control V, and then you can see how many highlight, and then you can actually just hover over those ones yourself rather than having to go and sit there and go like, all right, 1, 2, 3, and look over all 18 of them and try to keep track in your head. If you only want like one specific notable, of course you can just do that. But as I said, there's certain ones where like they overlap. Probably the best example being elemental damage and like lightning damage. But again, they all have 2 parts to them, right? So certain notables have like you can get like a dual impact. So like for example, if you're playing, if you want to get the leadership to be a Verana converts strength into energy shield, right? So if you're playing a lightning ES build, the lightning damage notable is incredibly good. That's called rest control because it gives 40% lightning damage and it gives 15 strength. So if you can combine that with Verana, then that 15 strength all of a sudden becomes 7.5% ES. So you're kind of like double dipping there in the effect, right? Not to mention, obviously, you have like attribute requirements and stuff as well. Or here, fizz and mana regen, right? So there's secondary considerations like that as well. But that is what you want to be keeping note of as you kind of progress through this list here. Just to, again, give some proper framing for why it's important to make note of these. Okay, so the first one here, 40% fire damage, 15 int. Then you've got 40% fizz damage, 20% mana regen, 2% max fire res, 10% reduced freeze duration, 40% armor, 10 cold res, 2% mana and stun buildup. You've got 10% increased curse duration and regen 1.5% max life per second. This is incredibly efficient. Sources of life regen are very few and far between. That's an incredibly high amount. Another thing to make note of, sorry to keep digressing here, I don't have a script or anything. Hopefully it's coming across relatively cogently. The ones, the more, for example, like 40% fire damage, lightning damage, and cold damage, those seem to be far more common than things like, like 1% life regen or attack speed or accuracy. there do seem to be like internal weightings where like the more broadly applicable it is, the more common it is. Energy shield is also pretty common. But the ones like where it's projectile damage, rage on hit, the curse one, attack speed one, this might just be confirmation bias on my part, but those there definitely seems to be like kind of a pecking order in terms of their rarity internally. The ones that you're going to find most commonly in large quantities will be like ES percent, fire percent, lightning percent, cold percent, elemental, fizz, blah blah blah. And then the more like targeted it gets, they seem to be a bit rare. But that again, I can't speak to that definitively. However, if you're aiming to get a bunch of them, you're gonna have a better or an easier time, definitely, with like the more kind of broad strokes ones, or generic ones, perhaps a better way of putting it. All right, so where were we here? We're going through the list of them. Yeah, the 1% life regen. The next one, we've got break 40% armor and faster start of recharge energy shield. This one, you've got a 40% increased melee damage with 15% spell crit bonus. You've got minion all res and chance to ignite. I'm just gonna say what the things are instead of the numbers because it'll make this quicker. Next one, you've got chaos res and totem damage. Then you've got magnitude of bleeding and arcane surge effect. Then you've got exposure effect and empowered attacks deal 50% damage. Max res for lightning and ignite. Then you've got lightning damage with strength, evasion rating with fire res, attack speed with stun threshold, projectile damage with rage on melee hit, block chance with life recovery from flasks, accuracy rating with magnitude of bleed, life percentage with mana recovery from flasks, amount of life leached with magnitude of poison, chance to shock with totem life, flask effect duration with Warcry cooldown, skill effect duration with effective marks, elemental damage with increased defenses from shield, cast speed with chance to pierce, cold damage with dexterity, minion damage with accuracy rating, evasion rating with minion life, spell damage with flask and charm charges gained, critical chance for spells with blind on hit, mana regen with elemental threshold, max cold res with shock duration reduction, increased prod speed with freeze buildup, ES percent with lightning resistance, charm effect duration with recoup percentage damage recouped as life, and then finally chaos damage percent with projectiles have an additional chance to chain from terrain. All right, sorry, I know that was a mouthful, lots to go through there. Again, I'll leave the link below for this. But what's important here, again, is to go through and to note the names of the notables for your build that you want to have yourself. In my case here, I will bring mine up again because I'm going to show you this firsthand. So I've got rest, so I've got the lightning damage percentage, the 10% attack speed, the 1.5 life regen, the 40% ES, the 40% projectile, the 30% accuracy, the 40% LE damage, and the 40% fizz damage. And so this is the regex that I've got from that. So that's by going through there and just taking the names and the names of the notables and then putting them into a regex like this. If you don't know how a regex works, I'm sure there's probably a YouTube video on it. If it's really confusing, I can maybe just type a thing below. But a regex is just like the offhand way of being able to search things in PoE. So like anywhere where there's a search bar, if you type shit like that, right, it's not going to do anything here. But let's say, I don't know, here I wanted to put fizz, right? The reason why this highlights now anything that has like the keyword fizz in it, and you could do that as well on your passive tree. And for example, if I wanted to do fizz, there, it'll highlight all the fizz things. And so all we're doing here is the same thing, but we are doing it with the names of the notables that we want. And so here we can take the jewel, place it in, and then just do our, after we've gone through the list of notables, put our thing there, and boom, we get highlight, 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 right? Then we can go again over here, boom, highlight, highlight, and ad infinitum, right? Obviously, you can do this for each one. Here we got elemental damage, attack speed, accuracy, lightning damage. Now, another thing that you want to make sure that you're paying attention to as well, in particular, if you have a certain zone that you have to kind of hone in on. So I'm going to bring up my little handy little artwork here. If you look again, so it's jewels number 1, 2, 3, 11, 8, and 9 that have keystones by them. Presumably, most of you are going to go for those ones. In particular, if you're playing an ES build, it can be quite strong to convert the base strength into energy shield percentage. That is definitely the one that has a ton of the highest value, I would say. The int one is actually very good though too. If you don't have a very high mana cost, or if you're playing like resolute tech or blood magic, right? Because obviously you don't need mana in that case. So those can be quite nice too. I would definitely say Medved, which is the dexterity, getting rid of your accuracy and converting that into armor is probably the least sought after, but that's probably just because crit builds are so popular. So resolute technique is not super common. And then on top of that, armor is definitely the least used base defense at the moment, but that's always subject to change, right? The next league might be different. However, currently that is the case. So assuming you do want to go for a keystone, we've already gone over the amount of notables that are nearby them. But another thing to pay attention to when you are going through and doing your regex is that you want to look out for the notables that are within range of where a from nothing would be, right? And so if I'm highlighting right here, right, because we've got our from nothing put on CI, right, I'm going to definitely want to prioritize having, like, when I light it up, right? So this one lit up. This is within range of our from nothing, right? So that's definitely a high priority. Like the fact that two of them lit up over here is good, right? But again, to get these ones, like this is obviously just a hypothetical, but if I did want to get these, I would have to spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points, right? And spending 7 points to get like the 80% fizz damage is a whole lot less enticing than spending 2 points to get 80% fizz damage, right? Because a lot of the time, most of the time, the notable that is going to get converted, the travel points, like the small passives that lead up to it, will very often be completely irrelevant to what the notable itself does. And since you're most likely going to be placing the heroic tragedy within a zone where, like, you don't, for example, as I started off the video by saying, I don't personally want to put a heroic tragedy here because I want to access these crit nodes, right? So the more likely location, just logically, that people are going to be placing these are going to be nearby notables that don't actually impact, they don't need in general for their build, because converting them is not a big issue, right? And so because of that, obviously the small passives that are leading up to those notables are similarly unlikely to be super pertinent to your build itself. And so getting ones that are nearby the from nothings really can be a massive boon. Another thing to consider too is that the from nothing and the heroic tragedy are only going to overlap partially, right? But you also can still use from nothing in other areas too. So right here, for example, from nothing off of CI, I can still access pure chaos, or if you're doing a freeze build, you can access that. And I can also access wither away, which is pretty good. Resonance is another great one, because resonance, it still allows you to access for the jugular and spaghettification. And on top of that, you get 1, 2, 3, and 4 easily accessible, which is quite strong. That's a great location as well. Again, my personal preference, if I'm playing a build that can spend all the points, unfortunately, I tend to be more located up in this area here with most of my builds, because they're, you know, crit based and ES based. But if you can manage to get your way over here, this one's really great. In fact, I actually have I have multiple leveled characters this league. Let's see here. I'll show you this one, because one of the jewels I want to actually show you guys as a kind of a first-hand example is absolutely bonkers. As I spent like literally thousands of divines going through and just literally divining heroic tragedy jewels so I could keep track of the various places. But if you look right here, I've already got the from nothing set up over around resolute technique. And then if I put in here, for example, let me copy paste that onto a there, and okay, so we can place this into there. All right, now we go and grab our regex. As I mentioned, we got this one, and Control F, Control V. And what do we notice right away? Oh shit, that's the wrong one. I didn't copy the regex. Sorry. Okay. Boom. All right, now let's look at the lighting up here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 notables are lighting up, which is absolutely bonkers. So Now we can look at what these notables are. All right, 40% energy shield, 1%, 1.5% life regen, 3% regen, 40 lightning, 15 strength, 80% energy shield, 4.5% regen, 10% attack speed, 6% regen, 6% regen. Combine that with Zealot's Oath and 80% DS. But so that one's pretty cool. But most notably, what's kind of neat here, if you take a look, right, this has 3 of them that are within range, right? So 3% regen, and it's got that 40% ES. So that's very valuable within that context, right? I've got a couple other ones maybe here that. Okay, here this one's pretty crazy. The defenses on this one are probably a bit more niche to suit my specific needs, but I think this one is going to be rather impressive for some of you guys. So check this guy out here. All right, now we get our rejects ready. Uh-oh, how many are highlighted? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 notables are on our list. Okay, let's see what they are. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I look here, right, the From Nothing has 4 of them that are in range, right? You got this one, this one, this one, and this one, right? So even if I were to take no other travel points, it's like if I were to just put that jewel there, I could put on a From Nothing. That's 4 points to get 4 notables. But also on top of that, you can see that this is a Verana. So this is converting our strength into ES, right? So we have the Verana converting strength into ES. We've got 4 notables. There are actually 5 that are in range, but 4 of them are ones that we want based on our regex that we set up by going through the list of notables. And then you can see here on top of that, we have 1 more right here, 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 and here. Now this one is only 3 passive points to get to, right? This one is like, as we said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5. Or sorry, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 to get to that one. 1, 2, 3, 4 to get to that one. 5 to get to that one. 4 to get to that one, right? And so in this case, and we'll hover over what these actually are in a second, this might be one where, because I can get 4 of them automatically there, right? And there are a couple of ones of these that took 5, like this one takes 5 passive points, this one takes 5 passive points. That's maybe a situation where I would consider looking for a Megalomaniac that addressed, that, you know, potentially cover both of those. And when you're doing the Megalomaniac, obviously in that case would be Crushing Verdict and Eternal Bleeding, right? And again, because there's no way to automate this process, at the moment you kind of just have to go through, check the seeds, and know your notables. Oftentimes you'll be able to find Megalomaniacs that can perfectly address, like if you know, really far travel points, but the Heroic Tragedy can make 2 seemingly unrelated notables be incredibly valuable. Specifically, and again, as we went through, how many total possibilities are there? There's almost 100,000 possible outcomes. So it's like, that's obviously not going to be in the consideration of people selling Megalomaniacs. So you can actually get like some crazy value with that too. The From Nothings cost nothing, like at all. And these Heroic Tragedy jewels are very like now they're, because there's far fewer people playing, they're like 3 divs, but earlier on in the league you got them for like 20 exalts. All right, now let's take a look at what this one has. 40% lightning damage, 15 strength. 80% lightning damage, 30 strength. That's elemental, counts. 120% damage, 30 strength, 20% defenses from shield. 10% attack speed. 160% damage, 45 strength, 10% attack speed, 20% defenses from shield. 20% attack speed, 160 damage. 20% attack speed, 160% damage, 45 strength, 20% defenses. 240% damage, 60 strength, 20% attack speed, 20% defenses from shield. And let's just throw on a kicker of some life regen. Oh, wait, another one here. Oh, and some 30% accuracy rating. Why not? How crazy is that? 40, 80, 120, 160, 200% lightning damage. And because this one converts strength into energy shield, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 times 15 strength, 60 strength. That's 30% ES. Then we've got 20% attack speed. Then we've got, 20% attack speed to kick on top of that. And then, these are all within range too. So I do actually have, and like just to pair this all together here, Megalomaniacs. All right. Where is it? Unforgiving. There you are. Now, you look at this Megalomaniac. It's got Sharp Sight, which gives 5% attack speed and 30 accuracy. Blurred Motion, which gives 5% attack speed, 10 accuracy, 5 dex. And then it's got Unforgiving. 4 max rage. It's good. Obviously, it's still attack-based. However, if I place this in, right? Unforgiving happens to be, if we look right here. And if we look here, ooh. So, if I place this in here, right, we get Blurred Motion, and we get the attack speed, and then, Rest Control is now 40% lightning damage and 15 strength. So that turns this Megalomaniac in from having just 2 good mods, right? I mean, Unforgiving is not a bad one, but if that were to be Blurred Motion plus Sharp Sight plus 40% lightning damage and 15 strength, like that were the actual Megalomaniac itself without that, this would be like probably like 2 mirrors or something. But because we went through and you're able to find these kind of crazy combos, right? That gives so much additional value to this. And so that's certainly something that should be factored in. And there's a couple more here I want to show you guys just to sort of show you what's possible on these. CI, got one for CI. Okay. Let me give you some context on this bad boy. I wanted to make a super tanky build on my Lich. Just a ton of ES, using my Mirror Spear. Because on Lich, you can have it so that your life can't be changed while you have Energy Shield. But you can get the skill effect, or the effect here, 5% damage bypasses Energy Shield. Lich has inherently 10% of that. And then you can also get it on the Aziri helmet. If it's corrupted, 12%. So that's 20%, 27% of damage bypasses Energy Shield, right? But on Lich, you can take it so that your life can't be changed while you have Energy Shield. And so the damage that bypasses the ES just gets fully mitigated while you have ES. So that's 27% just damage reduction across the board before any other mitigation, right? Now, inherent to that, though, is that you still take double damage from chaos damage, right? So you want to get a lot of chaos res. You don't want to go CI because the CI would block your regen. That's part of it too. But also, you can't use Zealot's Oath because your life can't be changed, so it can't overflow. And so you can use the unique amulet that turns your life regen into ES regen. And that actually changes the way that it works too, because Zealot's Oath, it bases when you have like, let's say 2% life regen, it's going to base it off of your life. So even when it refills your energy shield, it's based off your life total. So if you had like 1,000 or 2,000 life and 10,000 ES, Zealot's Oath bases the 2% off the 2,000 life, even when it's regenning ES. But the unique amulet bases it, like it just converts it fully. So it still works with that Lich skill. But it also bases it off the energy shield. So 2% of 10,000 is obviously 5 times better than 2% of that. And so, but it's really hard to find regen sources. If you go on the tree, life regen, very hard to come by. And the ones that do have it, it's very low values. It's like 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.5. This is like, I'm pretty sure one of the highest ones, 0.75, right? And life recovery rate doesn't work with energy shield. You have to get energy shield recovery rate, which is only available on Soul Bloom and right here on Shimmering. And so my idea in my head was, because I was leveling my Lich and I didn't want to die to lose experience, I need to get a shit ton of energy shield percentage, and I need to get the keystone, or I need to get the the notable that gives 1.5% life regen um, from the heroic tragedy, right? I want to get as many of those as possible. And so now you've been properly given the context for what I'm about to show you. This is why I freaked out so much when I got this. Allow me. All right. 40% energy shield. 80% energy shield. 120% energy shield. 160% energy shield. 200% energy shield. 40% damage. 1.5% regen. 3% regen. On top of that, if you use the from nothing for right here, you've got 3 of them within range, and you can still grab pure chaos, all this stuff. How bonkers is that? 200% energy shield, 3% regen, 20% shield defense, 50 lightning res, 40% damage. So crazy, dude. So crazy. So I was jazzed as all hell to get that one, as you could probably imagine. And where was the other one here? Curse 3 lightning. Is that the one? 2 curse lightning. Yeah, here's the last one I'll show you here. This is the one that, in a more practical sense, because if it's hard to get over here and maybe want to use CI. But here is one, for example, I think this is actually the setup I used on this build. I'm never using mind over matter, right? So I don't care if I convert that keystone. On top of that, I mean, Storm Charge is good in Breaking Point, but I'm not using any of these guys. And on top of that, you've got Breaking Point, Storm Charged, Touch the Arcane that are within range of the Mind Over Matter if you use it from nothing. And then you've got 11 total notables. So if I put this one in here, you'll see that this converts this into the Strength to ES, which is great. Then we've got the 1.5% regen. Then we've got the 3% regen. Then we've got the 4.5% regen. Then we've got 40% lightning damage with the strength, which again feeds into there. And the 80% lightning damage with 30 strength. At the time, I believe I was playing like Lightning Spear or whatever. Yes, Lightning Spear. So that's 80% damage, 30 strength, 4.5% regen. And on top of that, I was able to convert my strength into ES. And I didn't even have to use it from nothing, right? The travel points here are actually pretty good. The penetration. This one gave Arcane Surge. And these guys gave Shield from a Focus. So I only spent, 3, 5... 9, 12 points to get all of that, plus the passive points leading up to it are quite good. And that gives a ton of ES. The regen with 10,000 ES on my build, that was giving me 500 roughly base energy shield regen per second. Basically became invincible. I feel like I'm at this point kind of just going on ad infinitum. As you can tell, I get pretty excited about this stuff. I really think one of the great things about PoE, and it's always been such a great thing about the game, is just how much stuff there is to discover. And like finding out sick combinations, like different interactions that are just so cool, and like overlapping mechanics that become rather nuanced, but especially when you're finding it out for the first time, and it's like this gold mine of info. And these jewels are just so emblematic of that. I know it's incredibly like complicated, and maybe for those of you who are newer to the franchise of the game, this whole breakdown has been just entirely erroneous and superfluous or whatever. But I'm assuming if you're almost an hour into this video, you're not in that camp. That is how these jewels work, gentlemen. I hope you guys have enjoyed my little not TED talk here, but my breakdown on this. As you can see here for myself, as I've gone through these, I've been all I do when I mark them down, right? As I said, I write down the names of the notables that I'm searching for my thing. And then I get a bunch of bases. It depends how much the heroic tragedies cost. At the beginning of the league, as I said, they're like 20 exalts, but right now they're like 3 divs. So if you get one that's bad in all locations, it's better to just use a divine orb on it. The divine orb will change the seed number, and it'll change theoretically the leader as well. There's only 3 leaders, so it's often the case that it'll stay the same. But the seed number is, 7,900 out of 7,901 times is going to change. So that means that if you can test it in all the different locations, at least the 6 I recommend again, on the sheet here that are within range of the notables, because for the reasons detailed in this video, those are much more effective. And then if you do get one that's good, but maybe not exactly what you want at the time, I recommend just throwing them in a tab here. You can see I've got heroic historic thing, and then I just make a note here. I go here and type a note, and I just write down what it's got. So in these cases here, I can see that this one is by resonance. It's got 2 attack speed nodes, 2 lightning nodes, 2 evasion nodes, and 2 mark effect nodes. This one here, it's by mind over matter. It's got 2 curse, the 2 regen nodes, 1 ES node, 2 projectile with rage on hit nodes. Oh shoot, I forgot to write back down. Okay, well, after the video, I'll have to go back through and write these ones down. But yeah, because there's obviously like nearly infinite amounts of variance on these, you definitely want to make sure you mark it down when you get some good ones. I have been keeping like data outside of just that in the game, because obviously if you're swapping them in and out, you know, there's definitely some potential to, you know, forget to like mark it down, and you definitely don't want to like divine the wrong one or whatever. You can see here I've started making like lists of different seeds and stuff like that, but obviously doing that like 100,000 times in different things costing multiple divines a time is not practical. Maybe we could put together a database. More likely the case will be that eventually you know, it'll be able to be data mined, and they'll make a website similar to what they did in PoE 1 with the timeless jewels. Anyways, I think I've kind of covered how these work, what you could potentially get from them, and I think I've showed you guys now a few cool examples that I have there that maybe could inspire you to, you know, go down the same little rabbit hole I did myself here. There is one other one that is really sick. Where did I put it? Lightning. Damn, did I forget to mark it down? Maybe it was this one. Is it this one? Oh, I can't even put it in because of that, can I? Shit. Anyways, I have one down here where it's oh, here, that is it. Okay. Look at this one, guys. 40% ES, regen, lightning damage, regen, ES percent, attack speed, and regen. But what's dope about that one though, is that you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3 that are within range of the from nothing, and then we've got this one right here, which is just 3 points, but these 2 passive points leading up to it give AoE and damage, which are great, right? And then you can see here we've got 1.5% and 40%, and I was able, literally for 20 chaos, was able to get this megalomaniac that has oh, sorry, that's the wrong megalomaniac. Oh shoot. Damn it, I don't know where I put it. I think I actually had it logged in on the other character. Either way, I got a megalomaniac that has these 2 notables here, the irreparable and singular purpose, right? And so that gives another 1.5 regen and another 40% ES. So I end up getting 6% regen, 80% ES, 10% attack speed, and 40% damage from this one, which I thought was just bonkers. Again, regen's very hard to come by. But yeah, enough about me. Boys, I think I've given you the tools now, if you were unaware of how these worked previously, to go out there and test this for yourself. I know a lot of you are kind of bummed out on the game right now, trying to find things that are informative but still educational, and have some long-term like value add prospect. For myself, PoE 1 I still obviously love, my favorite game of all time, but I played it for 13 years and 30,000 hours, and you know, I think looking forward that, you know, PoE 2 is probably gonna get more development, and there's obviously a lot more for me, like I'm far closer to the ceiling of knowledge in PoE 1 than I am PoE 2, and so I always want to improve, right? Just as a player, but also, you know, for content to help you guys. So maybe if you're in the position that you're bored with the league, or your build is done, you're not, you know, in PoE 2, and you're just waiting for the next league to come out, this is probably a great time to test this kind of stuff out here, because you can collect that data, and if you have that knowledge asymmetry come league start, oh boy, can you get some cool jewels. So thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to keep this under an hour. I've got 20 seconds to talk. Shout out to everybody. I hope you're having a nice summer. whatever game you're playing, whether it's PoE 2 or not. I hope you're having fun. And again, guys, please, if you like this kind of content, the effort I put in, both time and game and to make these videos, really appreciate it if you could sub, leave a comment, share, do all that YouTube stuff. It means a lot to me, and I want to keep being able to make these. So see you next time, boys. Thanks for watching. God bless, and take care.